So a question I tend to ask myself from time to time is, why do I write? What's the point of all this? Why do I do this? Why do I put myself through this and give up all the other freedoms and opportunities that I could be doing other than sitting alone in front of this keyboard, feverishly typing up this story that, hardly anyone is ever going to read? So I sat down and I really thought about why I write, and it led me to a question about creating art and why is creating art important? So in this video, I'm going to tell you what I came up with. So I come from a philosophy background, and so I'm going to use the skills that I've been taught in philosophy to kind of attack this problem. Suppose it's a philosophical inquiry, not a problem. As with any philosophical inquiry, we first start by defining our terms. What is it precisely that we mean? In this case, we're talking about art. So what is art? Art is a very broad term, and I actually took a course at UBC called The Philosophy of Art, in which we tried to attempt to define what is art and what is good art versus what is bad art. And as it turned out, anything could be art. Art has intentionality behind it. Art is what the art world or what people label as art. Art can sometimes be defined based on where it is displayed. A stop sign in an intersection isn't art, but in an art gallery, it is art. So it becomes very weird. In the early 1900s, there's this artist called Marcel Duchamp, who submitted this piece called Fountain, which is basically a urinal with the words "R. Mutt" written on it. And this kind of challenged the art world to come up with a reason why this wasn't art. It was just essentially a urinal in a gallery. And it really opened people's eyes up to this idea of defining what is art. So my definition of art is a creative expression designed to evoke an emotional response, create an aesthetic experience, entertain, or spread ideas. Art can take on many different forms, from filmmaking to graphic design and typography and dance and stand-up comedy, podcasting, blogging, fashion, architecture, sculpting, painting, cuisine. There's a million different things that can be art, but they're all really intended to be art, intended to entertain us and to make us happy, to make us think about the world, spread ideas, to maybe challenge our perceptions or how society should think or feel about a certain subject. Storytelling is also art, and it's really designed to spread ideas and make you feel a certain way, to pass on lessons or spread some sort of thought-provoking ideas or meaningful information. First, we defined what art is. We gave some examples of art. The next thing I want to go through is, why is art important? And so in philosophy, when we want to test ideas, we create what's called a thought experiment, which is basically a hypothetical exchange to really challenge your ideas and see if it withstands scrutiny. So I'll be arguing that art is fundamentally important and integral to society, and to test my hypothesis, I will assume that I'm speaking to somebody who holds the opposite opinion of mine and they do not value art. So the first thing that I would do is ask you to imagine a world where there is no art, there is no colors and paintings and sculptors and podcasts. There's no creativity of any kind. It's either outlawed or non-existent, and people don't even practice it in secret. So there's no music. There's obviously architecture. There has to be buildings, but it's only to form some sort of utility and nothing else. It can't be beautiful. It can't have color on it. Color still exists in case there are certain things to, like, for utility purposes, like a stop sign is red to kind of connote some sort of hazard. Color is okay as long as it connotes some kind of value or utility in society. Now ask yourself, is this a world where you'd want to live in? Would you assume that this is a type of world where people have progressive ideas and people are allowed to, be free and to express themselves with creativity and the way they see fit? A place where there's forward progress and innovation and, people can communicate the way they want. I'm guessing that for most of you, the answer is no. This does not seem like a world that would be conducive to that type of environment. So if that's true, and I can get you to agree to that, then we can both agree that art on some level is important and serves some function in society. To what extent though? So perhaps there's another end of the spectrum where there's too much art, or a society that's overflowing with art. Is it possible that too much art can be bad for society? And that might also be the case. But that's not what I'm arguing. I'm arguing that some art is purposeful and meaningful in society. So when we have sculptures that serve no other purpose other than beauty, or to elicit emotional response, or to create an aesthetic experience, there's value in that. So if you're interested in exploring this topic further, there's tons of information online. Just type in "what is art?" There's some really smart people that come up with theories and graphs and explanations, what is art and what is good art and all that kind of stuff. But that's basically what I have to say about what is art. Now, why I write. Stories are a very powerful tool. People love stories. They've been around for as long as there's been people telling stories around campfires, spreading ideas, conveying lessons, entertaining, making people laugh. So, and perhaps writing, maybe more so than other forms of a creative expression, might be the ultimate form because it's deeply rooted in language. I don't know if I want to really hang my hat on that statement, but I'm just kind of freeballing right now. But I'm saying that storytelling is a really powerful tool because it uses language and it can put ideas into somebody's head. And an idea is a very interesting thing. An idea is almost like a virus. One person can have an idea and they can tell 5 other people, and those 5 other people now have that same idea and it can spread. Unlike something that's finite, like, a pizza or something, you can only cut a pizza so many ways. Eventually it'll run out. But an idea is not like that. An idea can spread, and everything that we have, from the camera that I'm recording this on to the shirt to, paintings and poetry and cell phones and space travel and the internet, literally everything started from an idea in somebody's head at one point. So to me, ideas are very, very powerful. Stories are a way to deliver those ideas. And I think, humans have evolved in such a way that, we love stories, and it's easy for us to remember details in stories. It's easier to listen to a story about some lesson than it is to, read a textbook with facts and dates and figures. Our brain tends not to be that good at memorizing facts and details, but we're very good at remembering stories. Okay, so why do I write? I think the first reason is the idea of storytelling, which we talked about. It's a very powerful tool. I love the idea of telling a story where I can play God, I can create this universe, I can set up this world, create characters, I can make them say or do anything I want, and there's a creative expression in doing that. It's fun, it's interesting, I get to explore how I feel about my, subjects. The other joy for me is the challenge of writing. It doesn't seem like you can ever master it, you know what I mean? So you can practice over and over and over and be writing for 10 years, but you're always going to get better at it, presumably, unless your brain is declining or whatever. But something about that kind of challenge fascinates me, where I haven't written my best work yet. That interests me. And it's not just about the craft of writing, it's also about, storytelling. So you could be the best crafter of sentences and know all the rules of grammar, but unless you are disciplined and you have creative ideas, then you basically have nothing. And a question I often ask myself and others, suppose you had $100 million, what would you do with your life? Would you still be a lawyer? Would you still be managing at the Gap? Would you still be, going to school? If you could basically do anything, what would you do? And so for me, I would still learn. So I love learning, and money doesn't change that. I would still be reading and listening to podcasts and exploring the world. And I'd still be creative. I'd still make YouTube videos and I'd still write. Money wouldn't change that. So it seems like fundamentally, being a writer, being a creative is in my DNA. It's who I am. It's how I define myself. And I just wouldn't give that up. It's just a part of who I am. So there it is, a few ideas about what is art, why is art important, why do I write, and yeah, so those are some of my ideas. Leave a comment if you have differing opinions, or if you want to tell me why you create the art that you do, or why you write. Like the video, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and I'll see you next time.